So earlier this morning in Newswave, we had talked about a possible class action lawsuit that could be facing Nintendo when it comes to the Joy-Con drift issues that seem to be fairly widespread, at least from what we've seen online, with heavy responses on Reddit whenever people would post about it, trying to get Nintendo to do something about it, and Nintendo not really saying anything, kind of failing to respond to any of the people with actual concerns about Joy-Con drift, to the point where there was, of course, that form that we talked about this morning that was posted for people to essentially fill out and say, hey, I've had issues with Joy-Con drift. I want to be a part of the class action lawsuit. That went up, and then, I'm not even kidding, earlier today, it's official. The class action lawsuit has been filed. It is a thing, and it's kind of funny because it's all available online. I was starting to read through it, and I'll show you some of it because it is funny, and I'll link to it if you want to check it out yourself. But they quote like IGN forums, they quote like game FAQs. It's very odd to see like these kind of worlds like collide a bit, right? Like the courtroom and game FAQ forums, I guess, but okay, sure, we'll go with that. So when it was posted up, it did find its way to Reddit, and that blew up there as well 3 hours ago, but over 10,000 upvotes already. And it's interesting because when I was reading through it, as actually, okay, here we go. Someone noticed right here that it is seemingly about Nintendo not really wanting to acknowledge that there's an issue at all. So it's interesting the way I guess it's worded. But it was filed. It actually is official here, where they say CSK&D has filed a class action lawsuit against Nintendo of America for claims relating to alleged defects in the Joy-Con controllers that are part of the Nintendo Switch gaming consoles. The complaint, filed in the United States District Court for the Western District of Washington, alleges that the joysticks on Joy-Con controllers are defective, leading users to experience drift issues. Specifically, the complaint alleges that the joystick on the Joy-Con controllers will automatically register movement when the joystick is not being controlled by the user and interfere with gameplay. The complaint, filed on behalf of purchasers of Switch and Joy-Con controllers, brings claims under various consumer protection statutes as well as various warranty and common law claims. Now, of course, I did a video on the issue with the Joy-Con joystick after seeing it kind of going around, and there was a very good imager posting up as well about all of that with a ton of pictures. It is a defect with the Joy-Con joysticks. They're, I assume, going to have to, I guess, in some way prove that Nintendo is knowledgeable of this defect and put it out there anyway, and then I guess failed to cover warranty, although I would want to see a bit more about that. From what I've heard, the people who did at least contact Nintendo they did have their Joy-Cons repaired. However, I guess if they replace your Joy-Con or repair it, and then like when you just out of warranty it starts doing it again, it makes you kind of wonder about their knowledge when it comes to that. This is the actual filing here that's been made, and it is quite an interesting read. You can, like I said, you can look through this, as it says, it's 30 pages, and it is the complaint that they have filed, where it says, behalf of all others similarly situated by and through counsel, brings this action against Nintendo of America, or Nintendo. Plaintiff's allegations herein are based upon personal knowledge and belief as to his own acts and upon the investigation of his counsel and information and belief as to all other matters. Now, I am not a legal expert. I'm actually going to be curious because there are some on YouTube who might go through this and kind of talk about if there is a case here. That's the thing. I'm not 100% sure if this case is as cut and dry as, of course, it's written here to be. It's supposed to be like, oh yes, this is cut and dry, but then a judge will rule on it and everything. So that all still needs to be, I guess, checked. But there's also a chance that Nintendo would just settle. It's hard to say because from what I can tell here, there is an aggregate amount in controversy exceeding $5 million, exclusive of interest and costs, and there's minimal diversity because at least one plaintiff and one defendant are citizens of different states. It does read, of course, like a court document, and again, I'm not as knowledgeable in the courtroom, we'll say that. But the funny part was there are a lot of quotations in here, and it's funny because they go through and they do quote several times different forums, for example, like here's Nintendo support forums where they have people basically pointing out that the analog stick will be drifting and move when they're not touching it as early as 2017, of course. Some cases were before then. Remember, we had the issue with connection to the Switch and they had to fix it. Of course, I put the piece of wire in there with the antenna and that worked as well. But we have Reddit, so they are going through Reddit and everything, the Game FAQs message board, and Stack Exchange, IGN message boards, Nintendo Life. I'm actually going to be curious. I looked through just to double check, just because I was just curious if they would be pulling anything from YouTube comments or if they'd be pulling anything from YouTube videos. I'm curious if any of the stuff that like that video that I did where I took apart the joystick, I'm curious if that will find its way into this somehow. I don't think it will, because there is actual like written work and pictures done with Imager, so I think that would be a much better thing to look at when it comes to the joystick. But this is an actual thing. This is something that Nintendo will have to deal with in some way. There are people who say that nothing's really going to come from this, but I mean, we've seen some crazy class action lawsuits actually happen, and Sony and Microsoft, for example, had to deal with it and they had to pay out. So I don't think this is as cut and dry either way. I think there is going to be some compromise here. I think we will see possibly a settlement. It's very possible at this point, because before it was an investigation into doing this. Now it's actually filed. So I guess if you still want to be a part of this, I guess you can still, I guess, contact or check in with them when it comes to this. But it is happening. I'll leave this down below if you would like to read more about it. I encourage you to do so if you're interested in all of this. And we'll see, because right now it says class action complaint, jury trial demanded, and I'll be curious if any of the people with law channels on YouTube go over this. I'll be curious to see what their opinion is on this whole thing. But there you go, 7/19, it's been filed, and we'll see how Nintendo responds and where this goes. Thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure if you enjoyed this video, you leave a like on it and comment below and get subscribed for all gaming news. And we have a very fun video tomorrow about the Super 64, which is supposed to give you HDMI out of your Nintendo 64 and maybe some other systems. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.